especially the Eastern Seaboard, KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, the color was lighter. And then we continued 2001, 2011, almost the whole country was blue, the second map from the right-hand side, with an exception of the Eastern Seaboard. And finally, we can see that there are still challenges in those parts of KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape, your Nusa Hill, your Mhlabuyalingana, your Msinga, and the like. And for those who do not know how I became Statistician General, my Sangoma comes from Mhlabuyalingana. So now, one of the things that we must look at, let us look at 2011, the second map from the right-hand side. Look at Limpopo right at the top. It was dark blue. Come 2022, it started to become light. So people actually said we don't have water. Now, President of Salga, while we say these may be abstract numbers, when you look at the way people have water or services, water, electricity, and the like, if you come to me beyond my work as Statistician General and ask me, where will my party, when you are having your own party, win elections, I'll tell you through service delivery. That is number one. I won't say now, but when I'm outside office, I'll tell you when I've retired. When I'm Statistician General, I'm not supposed to say anything. I don't have taste buds. I just look at numbers. But I know I can already see where there will be problems for political parties looking at the numbers. And the other thing that is very interesting is that including where there will be coalitions at local government, it's easy to see because of the satisfaction, user satisfaction survey in terms of the of service delivery. So now, flush toilets. We are saying that in 2011, 60.1% of the people were having flush toilets. As of now, 2022, in the census, 70.83 said that they had flush toilets. So you can see that in terms of the bucket toilets, the gray color, it's starting to disappear. The darker color at the top, which says none, it was sitting at 5.2%, it's now sitting at 1.6%. So people without ablution facilities are actually slowly disappearing. Now, infrastructure index. When we come to infrastructure index, this is a new product we have just brought about 2 weeks ago. We are saying that when we look at municipalities, whether it's metros, whether it's district municipalities, B1, B2, or we go to local municipalities, B3, B4, we are looking at an index which says no piped water, it's none. When we come to minimal communal taps that are greater than 200 meters, and of course basic communal taps or standpipes less than 200 meters, and of course intermediate piped water in the yard, and full, it's piped water in the dwelling, like what you see in some cities. People just turn a tap. They don't even have to move. They just turn a tap and get water, whereas others have to get a bucket on their head. Others have to live without water. So we're using non-minimal, basic, intermediate, and full. It's the same for electricity. Do not have electricity for lighting. Why do we use electricity for lighting, not for cooking? It's because for cooking, it's very expensive, and not everyone does have money to procure electricity for cooking. So for lighting, it's relatively cheaper, and we use it as a measure. It's used universally through the United Nations. And of course, use of electricity from a generator, solar, and use of mains electricity for lighting as in full. And all the way to sanitation. No sanitation, it's non-minimal. Bucket toilets, pit toilets without ventilation is basic. With ventilation, it's intermediate. And of course, all the way to full, it's when we have waterborne facilities, flush toilets. And solid waste management from no facilities in terms of refuse dumps and the like, anywhere where you throw everywhere, and all the way to communal or own refuse dumps, and of course communal container or collection point where they take to a collection point. That's basic, and all the way to removed once per week, it's called full. And those who stay in the leafy suburbs, they will tell you once per week a truck comes and take refuse and go and deal with solid waste management. So having said so, we are saying that all municipalities have moved out of minimal, almost all, except on electricity. Almost all municipalities have moved out of what's that, minimal, starting from the top. They've moved out of basic. They are almost in intermediate. Actually, even in the metros, there are still people who don't have electricity, especially people in informal settlement. That's why you see they are not going to full. But sanitation, we can see that some of them are at basic, but the majority are at intermediate. But when it comes to water and solid waste management, we can see some municipalities still trailing, starting from minimal all the way to basic, and the metros, which are the bigger bubbles, are sitting at intermediate. And of course, when we look at that from 2011, in the next slide, 2011 to 2022, we are saying that all remaining municipalities had moved from minimal to at least basic based on the Composite Infrastructure Quality Index. Here we have taken all the service delivery issues. Don't worry, they are bringing food. They are saying that there will be food when we take a break. So don't worry about that. Now, what we have done, if we go to the previous slide, we are looking at electricity, sanitation, water, and solid waste. When we come to the next slide, we have combined all of them in what we call Composite Infrastructure Quality Index. So what we are seeing largely is that the metros are actually doing well. They've actually moved out. They are almost in intermediate. They can't be full because there are still people that do not have services. B1 district municipalities and B2 district municipalities are actually following the same. But when we come to B4 local municipalities, we can see most of them are moving out of minimal, and they are mainly in the basic. And basic is in relation to all those categories I said at the beginning. So it means there's still a lot of work to be done in the B4 municipalities in terms of service delivery. While we know that our population is largely in the metros, so there's a big weight in terms of those that are in the metros. We have already said 50% of our population is in the biggest metros, in the 17 municipalities and metros. However, there are still people who are remaining out there in the B4 municipalities. And because human life has equal worth, we cannot say we are going to abandon them. We have to make sure that in the future, we move them towards the right. We move them from, they have already moved from none. Most of them are out of minimal. They are in basic. We have to move them to intermediate and finally into full. So what are we saying? We are saying that look at the map on the left-hand side first. In 2011, when we look at the composite infrastructure in relation to quality, we can see that in the Eastern Seaboard, remember those municipalities that I spoke about, in Nguzahil, in Sikayethu, Msinga, Mklabuya-Lingana, you can see them in the Eastern Seaboard where we have colored them and boxed them together. But you also had some in Mpumalanga as well as in the Northern Cape and Limpopo. But by 2022, most of them had gone out of the red color. The lighter the color, it means there is improvements. But there are still challenges in the Eastern Seaboard, particularly in Northern KwaZulu-Natal as well as in the Eastern Cape. Actually, 10 of the most poorest municipalities in South Africa are in the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. But we can see even in Limpopo right at the top, blowback, where you have Bochum, my darling, still remains. It's lighter, it's no longer as red. Now, in doing so, we want to look at backlogs in water and sanitation. One of the things we are saying is that backlogs of households without access to improved sources of water are largely concentrated in the rural B4 municipalities. If you look at from the left-hand side, we have the metros, we have B1s, following that, larger towns, B2, we have small towns, B3, but the B4s, that is where you see the darker color blue dropping. And when you see where it drops even further in white, it's where we were in 2011, but now we have improved a bit, but we still have challenges in B4 municipalities. And of course, on the right-hand side, we see the average for South Africa. Having said so, we said that nationally, 19.3% of the households, that is about 3.5 million households, they didn't have adequate access to improved sanitation. And we can see, comparing 2011, which is the gray color, as well as the blue color, and the majority of them are in the B4 category of municipalities, whereas the metros are doing relatively well, and of course the others are doing. So our biggest challenge is in the B4 category of municipalities. Kathy, you must tell me, and Clement, when you want me to stop. You want me to stop now? No, Clement says I must not stop. Do you want me to stop now? Should I stop? Clement, Kathy, according to the popular will of the people, they say the Statistician General must continue. They haven't told us what he must do when he finishes his term in office. What popular will be there. But for now, we know what is there. Let us talk about poverty. One thing about poverty, and I listened to Mr. Makubela when he was talking, and I listened to Professor Keith when he was talking. One of the things we say we want to track unemployment, poverty, and inequality in South Africa. But one of the things, the traverses of our country, is that for 10 years we didn't fund the measurement of poverty. Since 2015, when we said 40% of our population is poor, to this day we do not know. Only next year, and if our plan works well, by end of January next year, we will know how many people are poor. All we know is that between 2011 and 2015, poverty was rising. But how it is, of course, you can't look at my smiles and my frowns. You can't read it from my face. I am unreadable until the numbers are made public. And the way it works, I work in the presidency, I report to the minister in the presidency, Minister Kumbuzo and Chabeni. And of course, with Deputy Minister Nongceba Mhlauli. One of the things, even when I work in the presidency, when the statistician general releases numbers, unlike other reports that are discussed at cabinet, releases of statistics are not discussed first. Even the president sees them the first time you see them. Because why do we have that law? It's because we can't have a situation where the statistician general is told, please wait a bit, the president is addressing the nation, you will release your numbers later. Even when the president is addressing the nation, we have a calendar where we say the numbers will be out on this day. We don't change the numbers for political expediency. We don't even delay the releases for political expediency. The only time we can delay a report is when it doesn't make sense statistically and we have to wait. So that is what we call independence. And when you are given such kind of independence, it means you must never get things wrong. Because imagine, you are the only eye with your colleagues that must make sure everything is final. So now, let us talk about poverty. Anyone, any human being who in a household doesn't get 796 rand per month, and we are talking about income, whether you earn it as a salary or you earn it, you get it as a grant or what, it doesn't matter. Any person who doesn't get 796 rand is considered food poor. It means they are vulnerable to hunger. So don't ask me if 350 rand is enough or not. I will never answer that question. All I will tell you is that you must always cut your dress according to the size of your cloth. If you have a budget and you can't sustain more than 350, that's what you do. It's not me. Go and talk to our friends at Treasury. Lower bound poverty line, it's the one we track in the National Development Plan. Anyone who doesn't have 1,109 according to CPI adjusted. So we take, because we have about 250 products to 270 products coming out of Stats SA. So almost every day there's a product. It's just that some go to the media, some are released on the web. The CPI comes out every month. We track how you spend. We have what we call the food, the basket of food, what's that, expenditure and goods and services. So when you are spending on lotto, we know. When you are spending on electricity, we know. When you are buying airtime, we know. When you buy rice, when you buy Albany bread, we know. We even know the prices. That's why we release the CPI. And when those prices, when the potatoes leave a farm, the tomatoes leave ZZ2, we know those prices because we measure them from producer price indices. Actually, we follow human beings from life to death. When you are born, we are there. We'll tell you how many children are born. When you go to school, we are there. When you finish, you drop out, we are there. When you finish school, we are there. When you go to work, we are there. We even know where you work because you give us this information. We don't spy. We come to the households and ask you. We even go to the firms and ask them. They tell us who they are hiring. And then when you don't have a job, we are there. That's why we're able to tell South Africans how many people are not employed. When you get married, we are there. When you divorce, we release the statistics of marriages and divorces. And then sometimes when you blink and you think your partner is not watching and you go and do something and you cheat, we are there because we come and interview you and we ask you how many people have had sexual encounter with people outside their regular partners, and people answer honestly. And because for national health policy, for dealing with communicable diseases, Department of Health needs to do their work. So we must collect this data, and people answer honestly, and we thank you for answering honestly. And then when you are sick, we know what kind of challenges are there, and when you die, you may not know. We will be there because we have to tell South Africans what is taking their lives. So we are there. We measure the economy, we measure everything, but there's a rule. We don't tell anyone. So the SARS commissioner is my friend. I don't tell him where the people who are paying tax are supposed to be. Minister Kele, now Minister Mkun, says to me, hey, Maluleke, you are not helping me. You don't tell me where the illegal people are. It's not my job, but I count them. I'm responsible for everyone who is within the borders of South Africa. And I'm not promoting lawlessness. But as we are talking now, the people that are illegal in South Africa are using electricity, water, ablution facilities. When they got there, Kathy, the ablution facility doesn't ask them, are you legal or illegal before you flush? When they go into the freeway doesn't ask them, are you legal or illegal? So the Statistician General measures everything. So let's come back to poverty. So we are saying that when it comes to lower bound, people are making a choice whether they can afford the basics or they can afford some luxury. And of course, beyond that, we have the upper bound, which then they can afford some luxury. So we are saying that as of 2015, 40% of our population was poor. She says, I have 5 minutes. 40% of our population was poor. And having said so, let us look at what we call the poverty that I was talking about now is what we call the it's what we call the manimetric one. The multidimensional poverty is where government intervenes. Free basic water, free electricity, free education. And on that one, we have what we call the SAMPI because we include employment, which is a challenge in South Africa. In 2011, we're sitting at 17.9, but because government intervenes, we are now sitting on the right-hand side as of 2016 at 7%. So government intervening is taking people out of poverty. It's actually assisting a lot. The drivers of poverty are unemployment and education. If you have lowest levels of education, you will not be able to take up a job. But when you have higher levels of education, so Prof. Kit, the higher we train them here, the more they stand a chance of taking up employment. One of the things we know is graduate unemployment is less than 10%, whereas our national unemployment is sitting at 32.1%. So education, education, education. And in this regard, I'm going to skip this slide. I want to go to this one. Let us look at the income, sources of income at household level. The left-hand side blue, it's salaries as a main source. The lighter color, the pink one, is grants. The two provinces at the top that have the highest fertility, Limpopo and the Eastern Cape, are relying more on grants, remittances, and pensions. So those children that are born there, they have no salaries to look after them. They actually live on pension money. That's why they, as soon as they start schooling, as soon as they can get a chance to leave the Eastern Cape and Limpopo, they leave. I'm going to skip the next two slides. Let's skip, I want to talk about this one. We are saying that municipalities can exhibit stark differences based on what their budgets are. Let us look at Matatiele local municipality. 73% is on transfers. But look at BMAX local municipality. Only 12% is on transfers and subsidies. Actually, their highest take is on electricity sales. So municipalities actually show different issues, whereas Matatiele is only 99% sales of electricity. I'm going to skip the next slides. Now I'm left with 3 minutes, Kathy. In the 3 minutes, I'm going to go to the economy. Our economy, let us start on the right-hand side. In quarter 2, 2024, quarter 3 numbers are coming in 2 weeks' time. On the 3rd of December, I think, we are bringing them out. Our economy was sitting, real economy, 1.16 trillion. What it means is that every month, this economy has about 300 billion that it uses on production. And the students at the Tshwane University of Technology once asked me, SG, since you are talking about 300 billion per month, which one is our billion? Mr. Matkubela, you were talking about we must hand over the country solid. Which one is their billion? I won't answer that, but we must go and answer them. Now, one of the things, the dip that you see in the middle was during COVID, where we had gone below a trillion per quarter. We had gone to 954 billion. Having said so, our economy last rose very well in the years 2006, 2007, where it grew at 5.6%.